Okay, so like the friends when I'm sitting on the scale, like right now being confused as well, like for the first time that open back that line financially and like even though that doesn't happen, but you can like I'm different definitely just I'm totally for a thing. I'm still thinking about the friend. So will be one thing that like Central will be eventually use it as a like ultimate strategy. Will be Central's strategy that Central will be eventually using in the like all night of that eventually all night of that against like landers against the landers being like and definitely would be with like exact provocation strategy definitely my doing it will be from this moment on that Central will be even getting such an idea. Use such a provocative strategy to like trigger landing to the extreme so that way how Lantus lose its focus and let it guard down and that way to get that such to create such a situation and to that use such a situation to that Finral's advantage and like this is how Finral and his team will be able to like use outsmart that way Lantus and his left team and that way be able to achieve would be along the lines of like a strategy that would be right now would be formed in the thing like Finrad Metro, but it's definitely my injury efforts that is sitting on to that Finrad thing is like going to be more like and that like that would be lands and stream would be only seriously in stream provocation of that land. That is definitely that way into the certain land with like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like I'm still feeling my preparation for that Finrad only while constantly provoking land will be so they would like the recent performance of like land of being like the whole net system like Finral might have thoroughly and carefully observed the land of its performance and by now might have already figured out by this land even though land of is like shape magic of like an extremely powerful magic like it still would be having that range limit kind of like a limitation that a certain extent of like a distance alone which like the would be that range in which like the shapes with magic would be even having an effect even launchable on like any target might be the business that you method and might be the reason as well for like land having had like take which is like vehicle like take lands towards like a certain distance towards like the animator which is for like land have launched like the face magic on like just object the enemy of like the opponent team might be due to the exact reason so that arranged limited possibly existed for like the shape treatment about this like control by now. So it might have figured this is not the range. But this is like actually the eventual and control with partly through the like careful and precise observation control with it only take advantage of all of this. So that right now would have also observed how like easily land did trigger like the first time being right now that Tindral has spoken back to landers that Tindral might have also carefully observed how easily landed gets triggered. So let's add these two Tindral would be like executing an ultimate strategy in that Tindral later on lines itself because like landed and that's cool. That looking at that so like I'm still about to mention that like that in that Royal Nine exam that straight away like when about the Tindral strategy like and the strategy straight away or in order to like Leopold as well as like the third member of Black Central Steel to like straight away once like the badly when begin except awareness badly when begin to like straight away contract would be ordered and them to like straight away charge ahead towards like the still of like the opponent team. The scenario that for both of Black Central Steel needs to have the charge uh, towards like the still of like the opponent team. So Black Central alone like standing back next to the still of its team the scenario where I'm looking and that definitely also that implies that big boy kind of like a strategy to like recommend the purpose that needs on the frame. So that to have that the two team members of like Langer to have their focus on those two sharpen two members of that central team. So that like at that point control we don't expect in that to like straight away decide to that like target uh, straight away like to see that as like most likely an opportunity without expecting anything to have like land sharp towards that central team so they will get a talent like central expecting and like that exactly happening and land straight away sharping towards that central the right side and at that point central will be starting off the like slightly like and so starting Simraj even before that and Simraj already moved to land and like maybe that happened we were getting like an increased land was like quickly charging towards like central land team free. So like they are like when landers will be almost getting into the range of like doing it so like activations like shape magic and I'm referring that landlord like at that point would be totally feeling at really or control that land will be like learning that shape magic not even on like the skull, which is I don't think like launch that shape is not even at that point on like still of left and right thing, but on the right that point. It's like the scenario you like make and right drop and right space for like not like it's like the scenario that but like I'm saying that right just like landing to be almost getting into a range and basically would be about to launch with like shape straight magic like at that point and like using like spatial magic and like only teleporting himself to a different location, like so that is out of like the range of language, is like another level of thing. So like at that point, like language only thing that Kumbhal is like such force to leave like the uh still wide open. So like I'm doing a writer's like language will be about to like launch of like shape space magic on like the potential of like interacting that Kumbhal like creating another spatial magic and teleporting like the crystal as well it's like it's only different location out of like the range of like land of like shape because that way like I'm putting on top of like simultaneously triggering and wanting land is like in will also constantly teleporting itself and like ensuring that it teleports himself and the crystal in such a way that like both central as well as crystal would be always out of like the range of like land of like shape placement and that as well will be such an actual shock for like from surprise for land that basically uh, that like Finral of all people have figured out that weakness, that range limitation weakness that you could only think or like language choose this night. Yet like I'm looking like that totally rotating and stating line to time like language like totally moving around like that is chasing up a Finral and like that basically doing that just like a shape with magic with like each repeated attempt of the like shape with magic but like end up in a failure to land neither on like Finral nor even on things like within our that I'm doing. And the level playing very according to that Finral strategy eventually I'm just like Finral also putting on that as mistake getting as a black Finral while trying to like either land like this magic black as a black is like accidentally messed up and basically number to bring that number to bring that scenario where like Finral would be putting on that fake acting as like see accidentally messed up and basically that way that either Finral or like Finral is still and ending up within that range of like language like this man. So like at that point I'm looking at Finral putting on that fake acting as like he can't like suddenly or like after like he has like exhausted out just like spatial magic along the lines like I'm thinking maybe Finral putting on that fake acting. But at that point like language totally falling for that trap of like Finral and totally uh, at that point, seeing that situation as like language like ultimate to like to either seek victory or to like either like embrace sense like to like make them right faith. So like at that point, I'm like delivering language like executing like the shape with magic either after on Simran or towards like the pistol. It's like the scenario that I'm leaning more towards about it like it's not likely maybe language fight and maybe totally embrace and pursue with the language like launch that shapes with magic that right to actually put that actually that listic intent to like seriously touch them and at that point like that would feel like all that would be an average getting of like Tindra would only expecting like land at that point like attempt like if it space magic that either Tindra or like like Tindra is only prepared for that and then shape this magic so like Tindra at that very right this or like the shape this magic would be up to like land like fight and that very last second action rather than managing the prepared Tindra like managing like create like the shape magic at the very last second before like the shape space magic which is right. So like that way like the shape space magic of that landscape getting pulled into like the spatial magic of central and like central like creating under spatial magic right in front of like the state of like land of the screen. That way like with like land point shape space magic like to be coming out of that spatial magic right in front of like the picture of like land of the screen that can own like shape space magic that way this point like the picture of like land of the screen and that way like land himself like the point for like the trap and like of that control and we control that way probably outsmarting land and we can that way with like land point that should be magic like land was like that's why like still of like land was still and that way like land was having that and that could defeat and I'm point at that point like land is right now has like only mocked and made fun of control as for like uh for control as not nothing more than a means of transportation like at that point I would say one like control would be that way so at the end of that battle would be out eventually outsmarting and like defeating youngest and the screen that at that point like I'm Central totally talking back to like even responding to that mockery of like land that well that by telling to land that basically like I'm not just like a means of transportation of like people alone like but like of like but of like magical attacks as well would be along the lines of the either Central telling landers and talking back to like landers and mocking landers like or like I'm something like Simrat at that point like maybe only saying that single dialogue to like landers that like yeah like landers was a racist in that time that like Simrat or Simrat is like mode of transportation like while like Simrat saying that just like such a confident and secure smile to at like landers and like landers at that point really so extremely enraged and irritated and embarrassed with like having Simrat someone's land had seen as like such an absolute failure like having like partly outsmarted and that to me so like put language into like such a number and that's a situation of like getting defeated by somewhat that language being faced with that absolute reality that like that cover home Bengal home like language has looked down on that and that kind of finding stuff that like same scenario that and that way language is like which ego very correct like scenario that is something on them and so that we have also skills in the microbrain that like unlike in Mimosa's case, where like Mimosa having trained food at the point of like right now, metabolism being able to like use like not only the healing magic, but on top of that, like attack based magic as well. But like in the Finral as well, this and that time might have trained so much to be stronger. In that absolute goal to like really surpass land like this. And but even though in might have literally trained alone, like still Finral, even though the person might have not reach like the point where like Finral will be able to like do anything more than his like spatial magic like that we on the thing to the person like simply going to the scenario where like Finral will be hiding any sort of like attack based like spatial magic which like Finral might have trained to achieve or anything that and the like Finral only being able to like achieve only in the can do like the scenario that but certainly I'm elections can pick up Finral at least focus like training eventually managing to like learn adapt this spatial magic but like that attack with spatial magic I'm certainly I think would be totally different from that the shape based magic. It will be like a totally but even more powerful attack based that spatial magic that could be even far superiorly stronger than that language of like current shape based magic. Just like within the future scenarios that I need to go about it and when to be it is so that definitely the generation right now has got like in that the whole night system that is right now between that to round up that remember that man this missing character by the name X Black. And the thing that Chin would be this character X right now would be totally using Black to a certain extent, a similarity of like similar kind of like battery that like the face that had used in the set of battle. So definitely my other frame. So definitely other frame two is like current all night exam that's like about to take place. And the it will be the performance of like the third member X that the point that Mimosa would be like witnessing it like on the Mimosa would be figuring out to be able to like relate that to like the strategy, connect that to the strategy that the fakes like to the mystery behind like the fake strategy behind like the strategy that like the fakes and used in like the initial initial like battle of theirs like the scenario that happened because like I'm going that right now with like the third member missing in like the current online system battle that like about the right is like I'm connecting that third member who remote actually wearing the cloak like a magical item it should be like an invisible cloak that's one possibility that I'm looking for like I'm thinking might be that third member by the name X will be having most likely some sort of like unique magical spell using which like he to like apply that spell onto like himself to like turn himself invisible might be the other possibility that I'm so definitely even right now we would be like standing right there beside like those other two uh members of this team even while uh they don't are not realizing that might be the case even if it is like I'm referring that definitely even right now I'm referring that Julius straight away telling them and that basically for like the battle to like still started like the enough parameter. So like my person right now is for like not only just those two members of like that team. I don't think that like the character is totally missing from their team, and so it's like actually was a three Royal Knights and that that's about to take place. But like also like the three members of like the team as well. We straight away assuming that like the Man Knights the team member that by the name X have decided to like not show up, and that way like they have like advantage since it's like it's going to be a three versus two that will be along the lines like quarantine as well to say that's in quick scenario that so like I'm doing like once like the current or night exam will be about to begin like once it begins like I'm doing that the opponent team three member team and it's like their leader will be totally getting more confident and basically in it's a brand totally straight away deciding to like charge ahead with like one other. team member like so that way like two team members of like the opponent team straight away affect the badminton system will be charging toward in an confident manner towards like the third side of that the opponent team but like they will be winning that there are only two team members while considering like this gap by the name X would be that while bearing like while it is like the size of invisibility would be like running towards like separate of like the opposite team with that app with stealth and would be like standing right in front of like the pistol. Yeah, just like only a single match member, like the third member of the opponent team alone would be guarding at that point. So like I'm certain that by the time the scenario to be like by the time those two team members of like the opposite team will be all confidently charging towards and like would be totally surprising those two team members of like the opposite team and will be about to destroy like the pistol in an all conference manner. At that very last second, like I'm hearing like the full sound of like their own still being destroyed. And at that point, the numbers are like them talking, like all of them talking, realizing that like the player X crossing like the battlefield in that time. I think it will be the player X that will be like such a million 6 mile and Victoria like might be like standing there like the destroyed crystal from like the game is like the scenario that I so like definitely it would, that the scenario that is sitting into that like it would be the scenario where like the player I mean like the Magic Knights member right and it would be like single handedly destroying that with the process of that city and you'll be facing that victory for that and that three on the teams like change scenario that I was so the right and yeah. And that way, I'm different like seeing like the band performance of like this like magnet member by the name like because I'm different actually remember them to this straight away connect like it's like that performance thing like a strategy that basically show the bad performance of like the fake that induced thing like therefore that is like the scenario that I'm doing. So like as for like the fake stuff like probably sleeping outside like the battlefield and yet like the fake stuff having managed to like set up in like during their battle two and not one but like two trucks in their battle like basically that I'm going to bring like I mean also at that point on seeing like the bad performance of like the player X to be able to figure out as like what might have happened what like Pixels might have done to like pull that off like that. Definitely my picture. So like I'm still to my rendition that like was totally coming to the conclusion that like what the Pixels might have done might have been like before like exactly when began like the Pixels might have turned himself first created like a clone of like the Pixels and like might have turned himself invisible using like the very same similar kind of like a spell or like a similar kind of like a magical clone item like the Pixels are creating clone his clone like might have and to create his clone as well like the Pixels might have used another spell and like that way after creating a clone of like the Pixels might have stealthy turned himself like invisible right before like the battle even began like that. So then like the Pixels might have ordered that clone to like totally fall asleep on like the battlefield and that way like might have tricked everyone in like the battlefield and might have while ordering like the better clone to like be to like fall asleep in that outside like the battlefield like the actual source of might have been like the like invisibility might have been uh present in like that battlefield that entire time while standing of the were like in a joint manner were like together struggling their way while holding on to and protecting their crystals were like charging towards like the way of like the opponent at that point like the fake might have been the origin case of might have been present with them like walking beside and that in that time and that might have been observing like the Batman. Precisely when like the those three members of and while eventually while when like those three members of like the opponent team were like about to jump towards like Asta and Mimosa like at that point by then like and like the takers might have figured out like what like the opponent team was like trying to strategy that the opponent team members were trying to do that way like the based up at that point it's like invisibility might have set up the trap right in front of like Asta as I was charging towards like one of like the opponent team members to get the crystal to destroy the crystal like the opponent team like right before that just before that like I'm doing like might have been when that the fake was might have set up like the first trap set for Asta and that way like set up like the second trap and like connecting like the connecting the two traps in such a manner that like once like the first trap will be activated, like the second trap around this level is not going to be activated. And that way like the rate of might have set up that trap, and once like that trap, the main trap went off, and basically that the like attack like being launched from like the main trap towards like those three opponent team members. Like at that point, that once this whole uh, intensity of like that trap getting activated of like gospel art of like visual clarity in like the battlefield. Like at that point, like I'm like at that point I'm referring like we must have only think that we at that point might be when like the bakers might have straight away simultaneously might have took off her like disguise of like invisibility while at the same time while like all the audience focus was on like the uh, attack that which came out of the trap once like the main trap was activated, like when all the audience focus was on the trap at that point, attack coming out of the trap at that point. At that point, like might have been exactly when like the Pixar might have given the order to like the clone of like the Pixar to like totally uh, to like wake up and basically to return back. So like that way, like and like the clones that might have totally got instantly like the audiences might have totally cancel out like the clone of that this like clone and basically that way like the breaker might have once like the battlefield like we should battlefield run back to like the battlefield after like the launching of that the main battlefield at that point like basically by then like with like the fakers like basically taking off this like invisibility that basically that way that once like the dust setting then everything like at that point the entirety of the crowd finding like the faker in that exact location might have happened through such a manner would be along the line. This definitely my was very important and definitely this would be along the lines on this point like Mimos as well will be coming down to like the conclusion of uh, after like witnessing that the battle performance and of like the recap in like the current role night system that like about to take place in where like Mimos will be finding out about this that of like man's juniors who turn themselves like invisible like like seeing that like this much would be like what like understanding that Mimosa I don't would be figuring out and understanding Mimosa totally saying that in a secret manner like and Mimosa totally pulling Asuka away and like telling Asuka as to that the possibility of like this possibly being what like the papers might have done during the role night system and as for like this being definitely my book membership. So like that way like I'm doing that once like Mimosa will be saying this to like as like I'm doing like being like for like the second battle of like Asuka and Mimosa and the big screen like I'm doing that Asuka and Mimosa secretly strategizing to that screen to ensure that basically the fakes of will make a mockery out of like them both in like the second battle and like for them to like win like the second battle with their own efforts while also like outsmarting like the faker. Would be along the lines of the story like Mimosa as well as that what we determined about the question weakness of the rest. Because like luckily by then like and by now like as well as Mimosa might have totally been given up like the option of like convincing like the takes up to work with them as a team. So like I'm doing so like they do that reason and this will be what like also as well as Hashtag would be totally plan and strategizing for their the second battle in like the role like this and but like I'm looking like even then like I'm looking that the Painter would be still outsmarting and making a thorough mockery of that votes as well as like Mimosa, even in like the second battle as well, certainly. But like I'm doing even more than Mimosa, like I'm doing that the Painter to ensure like while ensuring that like Asta basically gets like the main format for like getting mocked by like the race as of like in front of like the entire of like the crowd like that spotlight like and the like uh on the different like, races ensuring that Asta gets that exact spotlight of like being made to look like the door in front of like the entire of the crowd. It's like given to scenario that I need to go and like the wakes of that the trading in that as well is like in the scenario that I'm saying. And by the time like the second match as well of like Kansas team would be over like I'm saying at that point Asuka would be totally was pretty frustrated and embraced towards like the face of and I'm looking yet like I'm looking like Asuka still not uh traveling towards or like even after the battle like Asuka totally preparing like not traveling towards or like trying to like attack like the base of Orange. But like I'm looking like Asuka even though Asuka was only fuming like Asuka only managing like calm down with that absolute determination that Asuka will be at that point telling me also that they along the lines of that basically, even though the Patriots has like managed to like impress them and make a mockery of them twice like in like the way the next battle like definitely that Asta will definitely ensure that that doesn't happen for like the third time. Be along the lines of the different like and determine that Asta at that point. would be having absolutely fixed in his mind at that point. It's like the not that I'm just about to right now remembering. Okay, so like the meme I'm very understand right now as for like the captain of like the Ultimate Squad like well alone like being like the only squad captain participating in like the organization would totally be due to like the reason extreme disappointment for like well in like the recent like start point table just like I think that having like the Guardiola like ending up being in such an extremely low position in like the start point table that they that probably would have considering that really deep down genuinely feeling as like him probably wanting to like prove that he's like worthy of like being like the captain of like night squad to everyone. So like considering the best intent like and like Real might have always in his mind to like probably participate in like the online system and they will be to have such like three member team that end up reaching that all the way to like the finals and even winning like the entirety of like the online system and that way to like have individual like price like performance and basically that way in front of everyone so that that way like I'm really totally hoping that like that way like Arun will be totally getting back this like lost credibility as like will be captain of like the aqua dear next squad would be along the lines of like the sole reason for like events like joining deciding to like join in that and participate in like the whole like with Rill being like the only squad captain to do so. So this only due to this reason. That's definitely my opinion. Yes, my Bulgarian question right now that is even that even with like a Rill being that the squad captain level match like still definitely protecting for like a Rill's team like only with like a Rill help like and the like and Rill like strategies as well like which a Rill would really protecting would be making like the two other fighting numbers of the like team follow according to like a Rill, like plans and strategy. Definitely another thing is this is like a Rangers in fact like a squad captain level match definitely I'm looking like the two team members will be probably straight away when you feeling that they listen to like every order that will be feeling them like they would be usually would be able to like cross their way into like winning like the entirety of like the Royal Knights tournament usually around the lines of different like those two team members in that range that Royal Knight exam change would be totally thing and that way like without any objection at all like then would be like straight away following each and everything for and like would be doing it exactly according to that accordingly and with that as the teamwork according to like how according to like the strategies of just like the scenario that I'm looking and that absolute teamwork as well on top of like like squad captain level brilliance and the like getting them all the way into like making it towards like the semi-finals the own like the scenario that I'm in. But like I'm in like the semi-finals of like the Royal Knights example will be where like I'm saying like Rill and his like team will be getting defeated if like the definitely in the scenario that happens. So like I'm doing like Rill, the squad captain Rill and his like three member team bring like in the Royal Knights exam eventually I'm bring like them in like the semi-finals getting defeated by either Zuma's team or like by either like the team of like the Patriots. This is like the scenario that I'm looking and I'm leaning more towards the possibility of like it being like the team of like the Patriots, like it being like Patriots that I'm just trying to be it would be that battling off against like when in that semi-final battle. But like even though when to be using his like squad captain level shield and power up against like the Patriots, like and still like the Patriots even surpassing and even outsmarting as well eventually like the scenario that I'm looking right. Even though it would be with such absolute ease until like the fakes of until that point would be like outsmarting like the fakes of upon saying like the Royal Knight in the journey of like, the Royal Knight. Still I'm like even though it would be such absolute ease like still I'm looking like the fakes managing to like totally outsmart outsmart and off of a ring and basically see the victory even in the semi-finals like the scenario that I was doing. And that I was would be such an extreme disappointment for like for Red. Who would be like only who would have absolutely been so extremely certain that like he since he's like definitely he is like dropping as like a program, he definitely will be totally even with the like recent setback like he still will be having that qualities and skills and power roughly of like being a squad captain and definitely will be able to like prove it in like the online system and that way will be able to like win the entire of the online system will be with that aspect certainly that current might have hope but like I'm saying that way eventually that unpaid possibility of that it will be against like the base of like critique of like the base of that it will be at that point that like will be once again getting that huge setback. Still I'm doing this like a repeated setback which I'm happening for like for it. would be only making him like even more determined to not give up and get strong up and throw himself. And that exactly is what I'm looking for him to eventually happen. Because I'm looking at Will getting at that point I'm looking like after like 25 like the page of comes when Rill as like a squad captain with while holding on to like the squad captain will be sadly getting mocked by all the other remaining squad captains at that point. It's like the scenario. In that the very next meeting that offense squad captain rather than the image like all the remaining squad captains including Yami and the Surin was sadly mocking and making fun of lateral for losing to a squad captain level Magic Knight, like I mean, like losing to a Magic Knight would be along the lines of them all would be mocking and making fun of the races like the scenario that I'm looking at. At that point, I've also predicted about that maybe that Rill at that point that's not saying anything back and that Rill that in an embarrassed manner like having that head down and that trophy on the and in that manner like Rill not responding or saying anything back but that while remaining silent with his like head down. And I'm just saying that after that maybe I'm also like about this that Rill probably going up to like the King Julius and that Rill probably maybe at that point telling Julius that basically that due to this like reason to some setbacks that Rill totally believes that basically he's not worthy of like the squad holding on to like squad captain position anymore. He'll be along the lines Sharon is the point that for Rill will be telling Julius so that Rill and the current telling Julius to promote Rill from squad captain to being a match night in the squad will be along the lines like Rill will be asking Julius to do. But like I was saying that Julius at that point and at that point, I'm just referring like Julius at that point, like looking at Red in like a proud manner, like and like, Julius probably happens right at this like shoulder and like Julius with like a serious face, like and a smile at like the same time, like telling Red that basically the person that Red had lost to in like the one night exam, like the face of was not someone on like the level of strength of like a man, like but like he was on like the level of strength of like the squad captains. So regardless of anyone making fun of Ring, like basically, Ring doesn't have to like feel so bad, and instead of feeling bad and instead of giving up, do the time of like telling Ring to like give me Ring that was confidence and motivation to like totally to for Ring to like totally use this defeat as like that as the source of like motivation and determination of for like Ring to like get even stronger and even surpass not really like the patriarch, but like all the other projects who made fun of it would be along the lines of like that absolute motivation, like that absolute purpose researching Julius would be giving to Robin at that point. It was like the scenario and like that would be such a huge field for like both words of like Julius and like for this way we're taking it to like half and basically at that point with that absolute passion and determination will be totally like would be totally at that point would be climbing Julius and would be like happily run back to his my squad. And I was different from that point on that absolute change happening in that way and that will be going through such extensive training by putting himself through such extensive training, not only himself but then that squad through such extensive training that I'm in like the very next Star Festival in towards the end of like it will take place towards the next of end of like the next year like I'm just definitely Rails Magic next squad would be that their like star points would be taking that huge jump and leap. It's like the scenario that I'm looking into that maybe I'm looking like a really nice that squad maybe reaching the point of that third position probably in like the third or next spot. I'm being more positive like my squad like team that I've been talking top right to like the remaining my squad with like Aquaria squad like ending up at the third position. Just the thing of like in the span of like a single year it's like well and like Aquaria management squad like making it all the way to like third position from but the far away back position to like reaching that most likely reaching like at least third position in like the start point table is like the scenario that I'm making totally right and then the so like the film and the Korean person right now with that will being released to have like paint and fix up magic like and as to like how exactly with that absolute brilliant magical man that Rill would be like using us that paint and fix up spells like and would just throw Rill probably painting a bunch of throwing and painting with that absolute spell time with like by like the battle will be going on like Rill would be literally will be given that strategy to like give the order to select two remaining team members to that to charge ahead and basically to have like the opposite team be in that to certainly put like the opposite team to like lose the focus temporarily or briefly for like just for just like a few seconds uh, from like and basically that way to distract like the opposite team at that point said that within just few seconds range like 15 kilograms like real so that few seconds itself alone but like the opposite team would be losing their focus on real and building like as part of the strategy quickly drawing that using select picture and paint felt like I'm drawing that absolute perfect image of like perfect picture of like their self or lack of relevance self. And basically that way like tricking like the opponent team who will be like from a distance while they will be looking at like uh looking towards like the location that will be like moving them eventually that way getting tricked by a ring picture and like them maybe and like a picture of like the crystal that ring would be drawing while like the original crystal like a ring will be hiding it somewhere. And that way like I'm different multiple scenarios where like the opponent team will early tricking like in like a journey through like the roll night and like tricking like the opponent team might multiple times with like the opponent team attacking Rill, Rill's picture pinging into like total Rill and like the opponent team attacking launching attacks on like the uh, Rill's like picture of like the crystal pinging that like the open crystal. It's like doing scenario that happens. And that way through such absolute pressuring manners that fear of the brilliance like and like going slowly outsmarting and tricking like multiple like the opponent team throughout like like journey in like the role like them all the way to towards like the point where like Orange will be making it towards like the final and just like changes and after that sitting on tournament today. Also on the different with like the race like paint and picture man like and funny like also real possibly eventually using like the Royal Knight and even using strategies where like a real would be things that a real can paint on himself and like make himself look like a ordinary contact members and definitely eventually using such strategies where like a real would be like painting himself to like make himself appear as like one of like the team members of like Real's own team, one of the team member of like Real's own team, or like Real painting himself to do that, making himself look like one of like the member of like the opposite team. And also the needed for like Real also painting his own team members into making them look like either Real or like making them look like the opposite team members, one of the opposite team members as well. So also like that way like through while Rill would be like taking out one of the opposite team members or like while Rill would be hiding that and Rill pulling out such a strategy. That way like Starly will be for such trickery and outsmarting strategy like Rill will be thoroughly would be that through such a manner of like Rill would be totally like transition throughout in like the around system. It's like seeing the scenario that I'm developing and step. Okay, so like the name the ambition right now that's for like the particular of like really like what like bringing things to like and stuff that would need to like I don't like I'm different that would probably be a trap set by the particular what like which like even like this broadcaster really won't be able to like see and won't be like realizing might be the case that he might be ambition. So like right now the thing right now bringing hashtag I don't see like and like it would be like the due to like the butler was being so extremely obsessive about like walking, wanting to like see like succeed, wanting to like see and ensure that like succeed everywhere goes like through any means would be along the lines of like the mindset of like extreme mindset of like the butler what might be the case, especially with like the recent repeated with like the recent setback of like Rill as well as like a recent setback of Rill like that might have seriously affected and disturb like the partner world. And so like even showing up all the way to like the location of like the Royal Knight system might be with this like conscious like and secret villainous intent to like totally so those will be fast through any means to like ensure that like the opponents of like has like the disadvantage while going up against like uh master fight in like the battle. So like to ensure this like so that the emotions were that with such a villanistic intent that things like right now with like but not like realizing through the interaction between like and realizing with realizing that them both even while being friends like are also competitors in like the role like system like and friends. So instantly like the butler brought like bringing tea specifically with Asta would be definitely to like to be sorry due to that definitely the responsibility would be definitely would be something added secretly added by what onto that tea to lactose tea that way put Asta into that to affect Asta's performance in like the role like system and like that way to like put Asta at like a disadvantage. So so that like even if the next matchup ends up being as the next matchup, even if it ends up being a battle against is not against versus not really, then at that point for Aska to be able only be able to fight at a disadvantage, and that way to increase the possibility of uh succeeding in defeating the defeating Aska and his team to ensure this in such an unfair and realistic manner and would be with that intent that the butler was right now would be serving the street for Aska. Might be the case is that might be right. So the commitment of very understand right now is for the poor and innocent Aska right now straight away accepting the offer of tea from water and that and even Mimosa would be not saying anything suspicious not neither Mimosa nor even Rill even though he might be known as butler or to a great extent still under butler right now going through such extreme extent of totally adding additive to the tea and that way through such extreme unfair manner to put the opponents of I mean and such a disadvantage that would be an extreme even extreme would be something that even Rin would be seeing as something extreme that as something that not even Rin would be expecting out of that world now. What of definitely might be definitely extreme. So even Rin right now the person will be not not be aware of this strategy of unfair strategy that and move that what Rotian right now making against Asda might be the case definitely one for it. So so right now the predictions for foreigners and Asda probably accepting and bringing the thing and then moving without much period delay and during it will be time for Asda teams second battle and in that battle and during the break not even having to to anything to even create a mockery out of Asda because I'm looking even the scenario being in that second battle in the Corona then come to the Asda being to the effects of the additives of into the teeth have starting to take it getting activated and start with have effect happening on Asta with Asta that way ending up falling maybe asleep mid battle without mentioning after the battle was beginning in the battle so it's one possible scenario that I'm right or I'm doing Asta probably acting funny in the middle of the battle due to the effect of that feels that what might have put into electricity and that way I'm bring scenario eventually ending up with the fakes of having not having to do anything at all to making a mockery out of hashtag or with hashtag due to effects of the diffuse electricity empathy making a mockery out of himself by himself without through such a manner it's given the scenario that I'm looking and realizing the some different from will be extremely disappointed and will be extremely enraged at the particular word and will totally straight away sending the sending ordering what to return back home and then the player in himself will be going up to After and only apologizing to After for what was this and even at that point, water as well will be going up to Asta and apologizing to Asta. So even though Asta will be feeling extremely embraced towards water comes to still Asta probably deciding to forgive him at that point along with Current. And at that point, I'm going to bring water also at that point offering another fee to Asta at that point, but the scenario that but at that point that water might be totally genuine about the fee. And there will be absolutely no adjust into that fee. But still after bring that to see such a comical, funny kind of a scenario where water straight away after Aska will be finally accepting the apology of deep apology of Waterland was straight away offering us another free and the fee and Aska straight away telling what to it's change scenario that I'm looking for and myself. There's the pre-election right now as well, Captain Rill and his remember things online to them about just begin and this year even saying that he's about to paint the best picture ever and that they bring a report also using the whole using PaintSpell and picture spells and to make him also painting up an entire whole landscape that from within the satisfied with that aspect that was nature and even painting up the huge and landscape using as painting spell in that way tricking the opponent team into running into the painting or the scenario so an entire huge landscape itself a different would be using drawing using painting and that way to creating such illusions as well, like then such major few illusions as well, like and like that's really partly tricking and manipulating like the opponent into like eventual defeat. Is also like into like the eventual defeat of like the opponent team. It's also like an the scenario that they have done. Okay, so like definitely the difference right now is for like Captain Britain right now calling for like the wine like for spend like another time that definitely won't be the case at all. It's definitely not looking both wine might definitely be only like a picture using like the picture spell of like picture and painting spell of lateral and the print might be a quick painting that lateral might have drawn very close to where like the opponent had set up the trap, which like that is like skills and experience as like a captain might have easily observed, so observation might have noticed like opponent is setting up that trap. As like the battle began itself, it's definitely like a threat. And Arel is like conscious like strategy to like can manipulate the opponent team might have casually that might have put on a fake analysis that can that without any awareness, like running towards that exact direction of like where they had set up, like the opponent team had set up like the trap. Yet like I'm the movement might have ensured, might have easily like figured like where exactly that trap spell was. Like so he might have got extremely close to like that trap spell, might have still not stepped on like the trap spell, might have like instantly like okay and I'm bring up with like painting as well as like it's of like I'm doing really might be like quickly with such extremely high speed really quickly as well as paint things as well as like create pictures of things as well. It's like essentially it's really high speed that like I'm like maybe even Magic Knight 11 Magic Knight 11 that fighters won't be able to like even be able to like see like the process of like in such a speedy manner like on like the painting or like picture placing picture there with like the naked eye. So these such at like such extreme high speeds that like Rill would be doing it. It's definitely might have been either that or like Rill might have only used one of his spells to like only what Rill might have been like Rill might have got close to like where like the trap spell was like placed onto the ground and they are like Rill might have also put on that absolutely acting and might have like attacked like the ground surface and might have created like a bit of dust more as if like to create that illusion as like the trap is getting as if like it has fallen off the trap and like the trap is like about to like get slowly getting activated. So at that point like really the absolute the guy was like instead of more but the might have typically created like the painting or like a picture of that wine and might have also there might have been like a rock as well nearby. So like Rill might have stood on top of that rock and might have created like a picture using that picture of things well like Rill might have quickly created like within that the case of like the cloud like Rill might have quickly created like a painting or like a picture of wine on both sides in front and then like that behind Rill as well. That way to like trick both like the opponent team as well as like her own two team members as well. So that way to that have that the two team members of the event uh, get that same exact facial expression that would be totally required for like to totally to trick like the opponent team as well. That to that basically for like not only to that increase the possibility of like that genuinity of like basically of like the illusion of like having what that Rin will be trying to create as like Rin has one thought in like the trap of the opponent team when through the facial expression of like his own team member to have like the opponent team even see like the facial expression of his own team members as well as certainly my premise where that way like convince like the opponent convince and that way like the opponent team to like the maximum into that way being a like the would be lateral strategy. So like right now that point of that like has right now thought with won't be it would be only a picture that will have strong using is like paint spells might be the case that we might on the reality. Okay, so like the minimum strength right now, but like offering numbers of like the sitting there absolutely there to like take down like the captain train of like a 20 or like the powerful attacks like I'm shooting right now it's in fact that their all three of their attacks will be landing at like a fixture like that entire can that will be an entire canvas like the plants as well as like the sky and all and print would be that where will be standing would be exactly behind a rock, a huge tall rock and basically Rill would have painted like an entire canvas surrounding him, and like the wine as well as like the sky, all of that would be like part of like the canvas might be the case limit, which and Rill might have done drawn all the consciously right close to by standing right close to like the trap set by like the object is definitely going to be damaged. You know, like I'm doing like and so like considering that with the opposite three of the opposite team members having that ability to like take down like the captain of the Black Warrior, like this is seen as like such an absolute achievement right now. So like they so it is that reason like they would have unleashed out a lot of like the magical powers into that combined trio attack. Especially that might be is definitely not different. So like I'm looking at the moment that attack would be striking at like a rail lap, but at that point like a huge dust cloud or like a smoke cloud. Dust cloud is what I'm looking for right at that point. So like I'm just putting here the black hole dust cloud kind of like a situation. I'm just putting that maybe affect about to get black hole here according to like a real like practical plan like I'm putting that while this like battlefield would be covered with black. The great portion of like the battlefield would be covered with black. The cloud like at that point I'm doing against black for like those two team members of Rill will be charging straight towards like the opposite team side before like the clear. So like at that point like the three like the opposite team members will be but I use so much of like chap mana to that try attack that product with. So like with like so at that point like they won't be able to like reach up back stamina to like really depend because that charging of like the two team members of like the Rill team towards like the who would be something that they doing right soon after that try attack would be something that the opposite team would be probably might have not cut down at the happens definitely not right. So like those two team members are charging towards like the right of like the opposite team. And at that point all three of like the opposite team like would be all having their focus on those two team members of like right. While they will all be like assuming that like they have taken down like and defeated like the captain of like that body of it. Like the case definitely members so like those three team members of like the opposite team that would be trying would be having all of their focus on those two team members of current to be like charging towards them and basically that way like by the time they will be like those two team members of making it towards like further into towards like the three and close towards like the those three team members and they would have charged enough to like launch some sort of like uh, a magic that, towards like those two team members. But like considering that magical attack, spell attack would be having like such less power due to like most of the stamina of like the three members of the opposite team like having range due to their attack against like a race might be the case in new countries. So like as these three team members will be like logging their like weak attack on those two team members of like a race. At that point, like considering by then like a race would have just be made it all the way to like the all the way to like the end of like the crystal of like the location of the crystal of the objective and like I'm looking at that point like I'm looking like the three members of like the objective like hearing like the sound of like their crystal being destroyed by a rain the limit of the rain. So like while the rain would be like steadily charging towards like the objective of the thing, it would be so most likely during like the whole that's more kind of like situations that leave at the prevention because like part of like strategy would be to like have at that point to have like all the focus of like the three members of the team at that point fall on like the two team members of that team so that like will be easily able to like make it to towards like the crystal of the team at this point would be like it's like such an strategy that I'm made right now. Ring will be most likely pulling like the scenario that I'm putting. So like maybe that's the case then I'm different maybe that the facial expression that like our own team members have put like the moment that Aaron had basically the facial expression and the dialogue that Will's own team members had put while Will had totally uh, might have totally put on a fake act to like fall into that point trap of like dog protein. Might have been a fake acting by his own team members as well, according to that Will's strategy as well. It's also like to reflect solely to reflect the opposite three team members might be the case also so like if that's the case then like those two team members might have in that time might have been well and fully aware of like try to use like might have only discussed and but those two team members of friend might be the case is like the opposite that I'm saying. So like the name of the preamble right now as for like a real backstory or for like a real document itself in like the room practicing like my and all that like I'm also for like for real going through such experience like I'm different that Michael Graham that like a real like goal ultimate goal might actually might be to become like the next user king of like leaders like after might be the case is like the possibility that I'm right. So this might be the reason for like going through such experience where like I'm looking also like the possibility of like a scenario to be like inaccuracy like even before like having obtained his like remark like I will might have been so extremely fond of that point and fading. Yet like real back then might have not been locked himself in with like around while like painting or drawing that just certainly my perspective. But like that interest of real towards like painting and drawing might have been not an extreme obsession, but like it might have like turned into like an extreme obsession. Like the moment like Rill might have changed his like remark might have been exactly what might have happened. Like Michael Brent because like once that Rill because like Rill's ultimate goal might have still not been to become like the absolute greatest thing of for anything, but like ultimate goal might definitely have been the entire time might have been to be like the next Booker T. So definitely imagine things. So like once like Rill had gotten just like a remark at that point Rill might have seen that as a positive. Rill might have been not excited and like Rill might have straight away decided to like use his like uh since like from that point on like the texture remark like Rill can use all of his like magical powers to like great extent and basically since like Rill can Rill also might have straight away decided like moment Rill had even the favorite remark like Rill might have also straight away decided might have also straight away decided that like interest like us to like reach like ultimate goal of like being like preserving like Rill is going to like take his like interest towards like drawing and painting towards like pictures into like using that as like the ultimate strategy to like basically using like all the magic powers that he at that point would be able to like, as a process like Grimoire like he might have decided to like the strategy of like fighting style through like using his like mana and magic to like draw pictures and basically that way to like create like canvas and that way to create that absolute illusion against like any opponent that way to like outsmart like through like strategy of outsmarting any and every opponent out there through this like exceptional painting skills like and using that painting skills to create painting using this like mana and magic from this like grimoire like I'm looking like such a goal like I'm looking like such a strategy fighting style that if you ever looking that current might have formed in mind so like I'm it might have been with that absolute intent to like basically to perfect this like even though like even back then like before getting like the framework like even though back then currently might have been exceptionally good at like painting and drawing like and you still to apply that painting and exceptional painting and drawing skills onto like mana and magic to create like mana and magical versions of that painting and drawing that might have definitely been an exceptionally and extremely hard task. It might have been the case in definitely my preparation. So like basically right now in like Aaron's backstory, like basically this is like recent explosions like happening from like the room in which like it's like practicing concepts like magic like it might have been all like this repeated explosion might be like he said the single time like really trying to like perfect just like uh painting like using this like spell really trying to create like a painting using like this like spell and magic comes like in more but painting each and everything that so like the moment this will be painting like that explosion will be happening so like this might be what will be happening might have happened in like that definitely might be the reason for like the explosion. The explosion would be straight away connected to like each and every single repeated attempts failing to like throw that absolute canvas through with like magic for the might be the case with definitely mentioned. So like I'm injury in like the backstory as well, what might have happened might have been even though like due to like real has spent so much time that without stepping outside like real might have like social skills and everything might have not been able to like cultivate his like social skills but and that way might have not had any difference, but like at the same time, like I'm that might have easily ended up finally like I'm looking like scenario might have been that was like parents that for something so simply worried for like I'm considering that these repeated explosions might have each time that the explosion will be happening from like the room of really like each time like it will be like huge pain for like it's like everyone who's uh, might be genuinely yeah, from their point of view, would be genuinely feeling concerned for like might have been the cases of you know. But like I'm thinking eventually one day like the exports might have stopped. And like the moment like the exports stopped, like I'm moving like them all of them like might have been totally stopped. With like them fine until that point like the exports might have been repeatedly going on right and might have been the case that in the once like the exports stopped like and like uh, all of them might have been totally shocked. And basically at that point, like I'm doing like I will put like a smile, so that after smile and joy and excitement might have kept out of it like the home. So simultaneously the moment like that process might have stopped happening from that all simultaneously something related at all like I'm like I will put like smile might have stepped out of the home. Might have been like the case for what might have happened in the past in the current that so it's definitely might be the waiting. So like I'm different so like at that point like the parents as well as everyone that who's like concerned for like them or even seeing real at that point might have been after like real has perfumes like pretty more like I'm saying multiple years might have passed and basically since then, that like the moment Rill had refused like Grimwar and had entered into and forced themselves into that from that point on like the process might have begun from that level. And since then like many years might have passed and like since then like it might have been only one like that person stop like Rill might have finally succeeded in like perfecting painting and picture skills using his spell and magic. So like at that point when Rill might have probably exited out of his like room with that mind. It might be only at that point that after many years talking uh Rill's family might have even seen Rill. It's definitely my consideration. So like during that time like Rill might have grown a lot. It's definitely my comprehension. But considering like at that point like Rill's family might have been finally been feeling relieved who like basically as if like it's all over as if like basically as if Ren has finally changed and basically as they might have felt that with like Ren exiting out of this room and greeting them with like a smile Ren from that point on would be living a life with them which like they will be seeing as like a normal life. So they might have all our family might have had all that hope at that point when Arul might have exited out of this black hole after all those great number of years with us might have been what might have happened. But like I'm saying, what Arul might have straight away done that Arul might have straight away on exiting the black hole, like Arul like us might have straight away left this home. And like I'm just saying, like it might be that by the time that Arul might have perfected finally perfected his like painting spells like I'm saying, it might be uh in time for like the mathematics section. Definitely my good ambition. So each year on the spring, might have been frantically trying to perfect this painting spell so that like she would be ready to like participate in like the match entrance exam for that year. Might have been like the case with the memories. So like each year as like the dates will be closing towards like the date for like the match entrance exam, like might have been putting even more all that effort into trying to succeed in when but still might have failed each year. And like, but like considering this time like has like the rate was so close to like the match next and then like Real might have finally succeeded in like perfecting his like spell. So like the moment Real might have figured out his home like smile that Real might have straight away like also left his like home. And that might have given that absolute next shock to his country and like Real might have straight away head off to travel off to the block in the man might have straight away entered like the match next and and straight away might have bought and show something by each and every single project might have been what might have happened. Definitely matters the temperature. So that way, get like Real might have shown and like the squad captain of like the Aqua here might have been what might have happened. The squad, the Nightmare squad of like that squad here might have been what might have happened. It's definitely might have been the reality. So like I'm thinking like the Aqua here, Nightmare squad captain back then might have been Cindy old might have been like the case. So like even one like Real might have grown like the Aqua their match squad like even at that point like it might have been far too obvious that something to like powers and strength like far to beat up to for not only all the uh match night squad members all the other match night squad members in like that squad but also like seriously rivaling the strength of like the match night squad captain of that squad there as well might have been the case in a frame. So I'm looking maybe what might have happened might be that eventually like the squad captain might have realized that if we lack that realms lack skills and skills have parts of that of like the acquired squad captain. So like he might have totally voluntarily like straight away retired and basically might have promoted Rin to like the position of that squad captain of like the acquired might have been what might have happened like one of the that I'm explaining. Or like I'm thinking like it might have been during Magic Knights like Newton. Somebody trying like the old squad captain of like that Guardian might have ended up getting eliminated, maybe ended up getting eliminated due to like in trying to like or like he might have tried to like protect like just like squad members and might have considering like himself getting affected due to or like getting affected by some trap or something by the attack from trap or something and that way like I'm thinking that the Guardian squad captain might have got eliminated and that way like the unit might have promoted Quinn as like the squad captain of like that Guardia might have been what might have happened. It's like the possibility that happened. Like this might be like reason for like Will being like so extremely young, like being like the youngest squad captain and not just being like the youngest squad captain, but like the age difference between like Will and like the second youngest squad captain itself being such there being existence such a huge difference to be solely to the specific reason of like Will totally lost himself even from such a young age like totally locked himself in his room and practicing day and night. Might have been the case of like that quick growth of lateral, which might have only happened behind the scenes, which totally happened behind the scenes that about which like none of that the captain due to their lack of awareness would be lack realize would be totally would be the reason for like them not being able to like take real seriously and them only underestimating and mocking and mostly making fun of that purpose the in that time might be the case of human. Also, the film member mentioned for like a real parents who were like frustrated or really disappointed in like well and might got like only seeing Rill as like an absolute figure and as like a monster while Rill was like determinedly with that absolute determination was like putting all that hard work and practicing in just like work of room day and night like this. Those very same parents like and bring like once like the mention like about like Rill might have maybe perfect at this like picture pain itself like the Rill might have straight away if you get out of his room and straight away might have also left his like home to like participate in like not night and participate in like the man's night system. So like the moment like he was like stepping out of home at that point as well I'm looking like Sarah might have only called Rill a monster back then and maybe as like a, even a failure back then might have been like the game also like anyway scenario was like a opposite that I would say. So like since then like I'm thinking like Rill might have not looked back and Rill might have according to my mentioned that Aaron might have participated in like the match might and might have been won and fight each and every single one of them whatever. And once like well got selected into that becoming that a match squad member like at that point I'm thinking that Will's parents might have felt so extremely proud of Will and might have started to feel that absolute regret for them in a realistic manner, seeing that Karel has like a failure and even on it and more stuff. So like I'm thinking at that point, like once like Karel might have ended up becoming a match, might like I'm thinking like maybe I was thinking even at that point, like I'm thinking that Karel's parents might have not realized like the moment when Karel had then made it to becoming like a match, one of the match like maybe it might have been once like eventually Karel might have made it. And so people like back then, like that might have been still searching for trying to like find him and bring him back to uh, trying to like bring back to his like home to like enforce that like what their concept of like the normal life on to lateral. But like, like it might have been only one lateral might have made it to at the position of being like a squad captain of like that's what they are at that point of being able to bring like this like new squad captain of which acquired that news might have been on the papers and might have started all across the world. So like at that point might have been like the point where like after back then might have left his phone like that his family might have even realized that like about like all the achievements of Dakar during this like time period after like leaving the zone. So like at that point after Dakar's parents like and his like, family might have felt that absolute feeling of Dakar regret of like seeing Will as like a failure and so on monster and everything. And at that point I was bring that the parents might have only rushed towards like in the headquarters where like towards like the base of like the Guardia and then like will as well as that might have had that private meeting with like parents were like super like parents might have told Will that like they might have probably apologized to like Will and might have told Will that like they are so proud of Will and like the achievement might have been what might have happened in like the past. Towards like the end of the current backstory might be like maybe the female favorite. So like the female prevention right now like things that with that backstory things that or the such an extremely passionate and determined and hardworking person like I'm putting like definitely able to bring like definitely real probably very even in like the stage and that going to be one among those like specific magic next broadcast and he will be still having a lot of relevance even to electoral signature and I'm going to would be even surviving until like the very end. But I'm going that to these broadcasts like Charlotte as well as like uh, so Charlotte's like I'm just bring that simply like which are like only relevant that I'm just bring that and Charlotte will be having will be not that as of like connected to her position of like being a squad captain, but like I'm bring Charlotte's relevance will be like the you can say will be more connected to like feeling the confliction towards like Yami and like even the game of Jack as well. Like Jack like relevant as well would be connected to different for like in the singular like Jack not having much of like a relevance at all. And on top of that, I was like Jack as well like the captain of like the praying man like Jack definitely getting eliminated in that. just or fought by like the islamism, eliminated by the islamism, elections in the as well. Definitely my favorite. So yet that way was like the squad captain, current squad captain, one by one, and looking like would be losing their relevance, and I'm looking like it would be specific squad captains alone that would be still having the achieving to like the respective and the clear will be one among those squad captains would be still having a lot of relevance even to like the respective definitely because of the lateral when while being a squad captain would be definitely totally still that even while as like currently only a magic might and not having reached like the level of the squad captain. Still, a position Rill would be giving that even Rill right now, like specifically giving a lot of attention to like Asta, like probably by ignoring the others, like Rill having given that focus attention and importance to like Asta would be solely to like Asta's ultimate goal, which like Asta often repeats to like it's being to be like the wizard king. Like and the friend it should be totally like that. This might be totally the exact ultimate goal of Rill. And the reason behind like Rill had for it closed himself in his like room and worked so hard at his like painting self and everything. It would all be the like ultimate goal to like really see achieve his like ultimate goal of becoming wanting to become a wizard king might see the king certainly my favorite. So like Rill even though Rill haven't revealed it like Rill he thought might be totally seeing as such like a horizon. Even though Rill is like of like at level, Rill would be still seeing as like a horizon solely due to like a speed reserve, which like would be totally like connect and resonate with like his own these reserve to be like a wizard king. Definitely my position there. So definitely that way. Definitely I'm something like in that sense is definitely I'm something that due to that for their goal according to my preference would be like looking to become like the next wizard king. I'm preferring that as well to be getting a lot of like for my relevant even to like the future. Just like saying the scenario that I'm looking around it. Oh yes, so like definitely going to understand right now as for that already English like that's what is screening that like none of them understanding the screen and like what is going to be snapping. Already. Like after the that maybe that what like for me that somebody getting to it that he knows the pain of it. Might be the case definitely consideration with that one thing that is trained risk and is going up to it and with like all that injury like I'm thinking that it should be what right now showing up towards early to that not to like demotivate Rin or like tell Rin to like stop what he's doing and like to live what like the others believe would be like a normal life for like Rin. But like I'm saying right now for like the badly injured water that in Rin's like story would be right now telling Rin who will thoroughly motivating Rin and telling Rin that like he believes that Rin can do it like because like the liver remission for like what definitely knowing that pain of it because like what aspect exactly might have during this like younger days might have gone through an exact same similar kind of like situation as that of like where like there might have been some specific skills that water as well might have been so passionate about and might have given to like absolute everything to like perfection but like I'm thinking eventually those foreign lack in the case of water like like it might have been that absolute forcing by like what was like family to give up what was like so extremely passionate about and even with like the pressure mounting up on like water and like with that eventually I'm wondering what might have happened in like water like younger phase might have been that usually water unlike real might have probably succumbed to like the pressure and might have given up on his like passion and like what eventually like that person might be like regretting giving up his like passion. So like the person's like might have locked himself after getting like had like locked himself up in his room and was like relentlessly so that after determination was like practicing his like painting well like at that point I'm pretty like water alone might have been the only person in that huge mansion like who might have been extremely proud of him and might have been secretly in his like mind might have been cheering and rooting for like to succeed where like water had failed. It's definitely might be very amazing. So like definitely I'm considering like because like from what point of view like what we were only saying that even though what has failed in this like at least if that will succeed where like what has failed because like from other point of view what Ray would be doing by looking in this room and like working relentlessly to have that determination and hard work on pattern will be like something that what it is as like the absolute right thing to do. It's definitely my very ambition for to have a passion and to that put in all that hard work to achieve that passion would be that absolute perfect thing to do would be definitely what like what it is and that way what holds totally and like to be the only person that will be thoroughly able to like understand will and like the pain of will like the repeated failures and everything. It's definitely my favorite. So this is what I'm personally working right now for like the band India what was right now showed up in front of that the extremely badly disappointed and demotivated well who's like really painting on like creating like perfect painting using a spell like I'm doing right now what giving Rill that absolute motivated through what right now revealing Rill during that is like totally cheering on for Rill and he believes in Rill. That would be that one person who would be placing all that trust on that Rill. That one person who would be like totally believing it. Like the moment Rill would be realizing that like that would be giving a Rill. That will be that missing element in that Rill life that would be giving Rill that absolute fitness, that absolute push, that like that single push that beyond like by surrounded by all the people who doesn't believe in at all in that kind of being able to feel like that one single person who would have given Rin that absolute push, which might have been like the sole factor that missing factor, which might have allowed Rin to be able to like lift this like very next drawing might have allowed Rin to like complete this like uh and perfect this like absolute painting spell and create that absolute perfect drawing might have been what might have happened. So like I'm thinking what might have played such an absolute crucial role in that real life and getting a real to where he is in like the process, to like the position of that second what happened. Might have been what might have happened. In that backstory. It definitely might have been. So like my three impressions are like elect the person that like real is like currently at the position of like the squad captain. Like I'm just bringing that even like the person like won't be at all having much fun at all. Definitely my preference like the only person that like real would be seeing and which like absolute best friend would be back and what alone. Which definitely my preference. And the sole reason would be like that sort of common factor where like the water as well like share the same passion as that of like Rill had like was like had like a goal in his life and was like exactly passionate exactly like Rill and had gone through like the same kind of like suffering as the Rill even if like what failed like the fact that like what like they don't like they like understand Rill like I'm sure that fact that might have been the factor like that would be totally like that only factor that like that extreme passion towards like and having that extreme passion and like having such an ultimate goal and like someone who works so extremely hard towards the things with the goal that would be like the only quality that I'm considering like someone like Rill will be looking in like a friend and especially because like the majority might be totally in like her life that even as like while serving as like a squad captain like the majority of like the people that like really will be encountering that when we only is able to sense that like the majority even while being exceptionally strong maybe even being stronger than would be totally lacking that absolute passion to achieve their or like that ultimate passionate goal that desire to like achieve such a goal like that will be that crucial factor that will be only seeing as like lacking in all those like remaining squad captains as well as like the other people that like, in like life that we will be encountering even to like the person who's definitely not friends. So like this might be the reason like so that after such a long time that the only person other than that water that we might have seen as like having such an absolute passion would be hashtag definitely not agreeable. So like Rin tape down would be probably tape down even though Rin might have not revealed it to like hashtag like the Rin tape down might be genuinely so badly wanting to like make he has good great friends with like hashtag might be the actuality of like the present situation of Rin. It's definitely not agreeable because like Rin through hashtag like and the thing like Rin might be seeing himself and that would be seeing will be so absolutely happy to like always top like Asta because like really we only seeing Asta alone as like one of those rare individuals who like don't see exactly like people and like what will be along the lines like Rin will be seeing as definitely my favorite. So like deep down Rin will be having that absolute extreme desire to see great friends and spend a lot spend time with like Asta and have fun with like Asta. That's definitely my favorite. Okay, so like definitely one of the mentioned right now is that again though when using like picture map can recreate any magical art and record like and one still it's still like the recreation would be since it's all based on like the picture magic of like and still like the recreation of like any magical attribute won't be as strong as like the original magical attribute that someone who's like on the same levels of strength as that of Rin would be using that the original uh, magical attribute like its strength won't be will be a tad bit a lot stronger than like the that can attribute like that of that very same of that same magical element that like Rill could like only recreate using the like picture magic might be the case of definitely not so like the only way for Rill to be like counter like the original magical attribute with like a magical attribute that like advantage to which alone was definitely my preference. And even that like a different lag would be that strategy of Rill as well a different lag would be eventually reaching like a barrier uh, and a limitation kind of like a point in like Rill's next journey to like get strong. That's definitely my particular impression. Which like ambition would be eventually uh, on reaching such a limitation kind of like a point because that Rill would be having to like be forced to like have a no other choice but like figure out totally different strategy to like bypass such a limitation. Still using his like it's of magic itself. Like definitely my preference. And that number different like would be one thing that like individual like Rill would be surpassing such a limitation in like the definitely my preference. So like definitely like the distant future and definitely Rill would be having that all those different strategies other than just like very single same strategy of like basically countering by countering an opponent's like magical attribute with like a magical attribute that's like advantages to it. It's definitely my friend. About which I'm totally think Rill will be like getting that very first reality check in his like during lateral like battle against like mental battle like the whole night system against like the team of like time like the players of definitely maybe which like I'm so thing that are using this very same strategy and trying to knock down like the magic out of your like the of like the base but like I'm definitely that strategy definitely seriously that product onto it at that point it's definitely very and that will be like that beginning point in like it's like in the career of that of where like really be slowly starting to see like limitations appearing for the like this strategy of like countering like the black magic with like advantages of the other it's like the scenario that I'm about again. What is the like name of the transition right now? That's one and the role like system that like right now those take place of like the team and that and cross like and that woman like I'm referring their team those only ending up getting eliminated and getting defeated in like the very first round itself of like the role like different tournament. It's like the definitely in the scenario that I'm looking for this. So like I'm doing definitely things not going so extremely smoothly for like the black so and everyone like important to like ask that and everything but like everyone just casually like passing like the first round of like the tournament that mean of the scenario that I'm so like in the case of like under the condition that maybe like the choice of like the team of like flaws and luck that I'm doing them getting defeated even in like the very first round itself of like the tournament just like the scenario next example like the scenario that I'm doing so and I'm only putting like it's only luck and lack of confidence and this lack reckless and eagerness to like fight with lack of like preparedness, kind of like a man of anything like fights. Like I'm looking for like that playing a major role in like the defeat like the team of like clones and like that woman like person out that option. And even though it's like that woman was like the senior magic knight in like and clones team, like I'm looking at her being a whole lot stronger than she will be acting as like the right now it's like the art that I'm like yeah like I'm different like that team member from like the opponent team like I'm doing who's like a senior member of like the single even like I'm putting off would be like exceptionally skilled it's definitely member for every time definitely I'm with like even right now with like being that that's like right now telling even close that is need that they need to have a plan before like approaching like the fight against that opposite team and straight away with like also right now telling like as well as like women team member that about like them having to like watch out for like the member of a like of the team. Like straight away what luck would be right now feeling in his mind will be that feeling of absolute excitement to like straight away once like the Royal Knights example of their team even begins itself at that point itself like to straight away charge towards like a rope and try to pick up fight and fight and defeat the rope to be the only thing like that's my definitely my preference. So like I'm totally preferring like spraying away from like the focus of like it not being like a fight to like see who's like the strongest, but like it being a fight to like destroy like the of like the opposite team first, and that way which decides like the victory of like the match. So like totally forgetting about that and like straight away like the Roland family begins to straight away charging towards like of that absolute eagerness and excitement to like fight and overperform. But like I'm feeling like a robot with such absolute ease, like only outsmarting and easily overpowering and tricking and totally offering the not totally pretending that they're not being much trickery at all from that rock side. Like I'm certain it will be sheer strength alone from that rock side that I'm looking like the easily or the fish like Robin easily offering that the scenario that I'm while I'm looking like the remaining team and I'm looking like soon after like Rob will be that offering like I'm looking at that point is that like being badly injured and not being able to lack at that point is like scenario that so like that straight away at that point that get defeated by Rob without much great effort or expert from the outside like the scenario that everything and after defeating that like Rob will be charged straight towards like the team of Black Cross as well as like the female senior management that was an after and at that point I was thinking like it would be close that would be like still being like responsible one that is the like deciding that protect the president like the scenario that while like that female senior management like that are deciding like straight away try to like stop her office like the scenario that still like in that senior female management as well getting most likely outsmarted or like offered by Rob into eventually resulting in like and by that like I'm sure while Rob and that female senior management in that long team would be that only trying to get past pieces and like I'm might be due this time that I'm looking that one of like the remaining one among like, the remaining two team members of that Rob's team that is in that while one of the members will be standing guard of the like the other to be like charging against this time and then the time most likely would be that putting cloth as well into like a struggling situation where like cloth and the already having to like hold him back, hold that team member of like of the team back, but by doing that while sometimes at the same time also having like ensure like the protection of like cloths like itself teams as well when it's like scenarios that everywhere. That way cloth while the cloth will be having all of its focus on like the of the team member and will be struggling to like holding off like and by the like and given like Rob would have totally or even like the senior teammate management team member of like Rob's team and that would have totally destroyed like a concept of like loss and that boom is like the scenario that I'm looking. So like definitely I'm looking like to me like in the scenario where like it will be Rob and just like so the thing and strength that would be like eventually ending up like that of the team winning and that coupled with like extreme sheer of confidence and recognition of potential that still would have not matured to the point of that being able to like overcome that as well playing a major role in like the repeat of like the aim of like loss as well as like that moment in like the upcoming like Royal United in that kind of very close around it and like the scenario that I'm putting and I'm bring like that is the thing that I'm written for like it being about himself that okay at this point like the customer as well of like the team of like cross that as well as that woman like the scenario that I'm putting and definitely I'm putting that eventually like definitely I'm putting that the team of like cross that neither cross that eventually won't be once like the Royal Nations tournament will be over like I'm definitely neither that nor cross would be getting selected to be part of like the Royal Nations army. Just like also like feeling good scenario that I'm looking for.